There is a reason Akainu feels different from almost every villain in One Piece. Blackbeard wants power, Doflamingo wants domination, Kaido wanted a world defined by strength, but Akainu wants something far more dangerous. He wants to be right. Sakazuki does not see himself as a villain. He believes he is protecting the world, and that belief is exactly what makes him terrifying. Because when a man becomes completely convinced that his version of justice is absolute, almost anything can be justified. Killing civilians, executing his own soldiers, destroying entire islands, even turning against the government he serves. As One Piece enters its final era, Oda may not be building Akainu simply as the man Luffy must defeat, but as the ultimate example of what happens when justice loses its humanity. This is the psychology of Fleet Admiral Sakazuki, the man the world calls Akainu, the Red Dog, and one of the most misunderstood monsters in One Piece. To understand Akainu, we have to remember that One Piece has never been as simple as pirates being good and marines being evil. Some pirates are monsters, some marines are heroes. Garp and Kobe protect the innocent, while Fujitora and Smoker choose humanity over blind obedience. And then there is Akainu, a man who also believes he is protecting people. The difference is how far he is willing to go. Akainu follows absolute justice. Its logic is simple. If evil exists, destroy it completely. Do not negotiate with it. Do not tolerate even the possibility of it surviving. Eliminate it. At first, that philosophy can almost sound reasonable. Stopping dangerous criminals protects society. But Akainu takes the idea to its most extreme conclusion. For him, preventing evil is more important than protecting any innocent person who stands in the way. Nowhere is this clearer than Ohara. The world government ordered the island's destruction because its scholars were researching the Void Century. A buster call was launched, but an evacuation ship was prepared for ordinary civilians, families, and children who had nothing to do with the forbidden research. Akainu destroyed their ship anyway. Why? Because one scholar might have escaped among them. Think about the psychology behind that decision. He killed hundreds of innocent people to guarantee that one potential enemy did not survive. That moment tells us almost everything we need to know about him. To Akainu, innocence is not absolute. Human life is not absolute. Only justice is absolute. And when justice becomes more important than human beings, it stops protecting humanity and begins consuming it. This is why Akainu is frightening in a different way from Blackbeard. Blackbeard celebrates chaos. He wants freedom without limits. Akainu represents the opposite extreme, order without limits. Luffy exists outside both philosophies. He wants freedom, but his freedom leads him to protect the freedom of others. Akainu wants reality to fit inside strict divisions, justice and evil, marine and pirate, loyalty and betrayal, right and wrong. But reality refuses to remain that simple. And that may explain Akainu's frustration as Fleet Admiral. Taking command should have been Akainu's greatest achievement. Instead, it exposed the weakness of his philosophy. He is not actually at the top. Above the Marines sit the world government and the celestial dragons, protected by a system of secrets and control. He hates criminals, yet serves people capable of enormous crimes. He claims to protect civilians, yet the celestial dragons treat humans as property. And we have seen his frustration. He argues with his superiors, questions decisions, and hates being manipulated. So what happens when Sakazuki can no longer pretend that the institution he serves represents justice? Discovering that his sacrifices supported corruption would not make him good, but it could break something inside him. His authoritarian mindset explains why he killed a marine who tried to flee at Marineford. To Akainu, soldiers are a wall against chaos. Their fear and family do not matter, only the system does. Once people become functions, cruelty becomes easy. It also explains his clash with Aokiji, compassion against certainty, restraint against aggression. Yet Akainu spared his defeated rival, showing that Sakazuki is more complicated than a machine programmed to eliminate enemies. Then we arrive at the person most fans associate with Akainu, Ace. Akainu manipulated him, insulting Whitebeard because he knew Ace would react. Ace turned back, Akainu attacked, and when Luffy became vulnerable, Ace sacrificed himself for his younger brother. Akainu's fist passed through Ace's body and Luffy's world collapsed. That moment permanently connected them. The scar across Luffy's chest is visible, but the deeper scar is not. Akainu represents the moment Luffy learned that determination alone was not enough. He could not save everyone. A future confrontation would be more than hero versus villain. It would be Luffy confronting one of the greatest sources of trauma in his life. But Akainu may not be Luffy's final opponent. One Piece has introduced conflicts larger than the Marines. Imu, the Five Elders, the Void Century, and the hidden crimes of the world government. Akainu now occupies a strange position. He is one of the world's greatest threats, but politically he remains a subordinate. And a man like Akainu may not tolerate learning that he was merely a tool. This creates a possibility that could transform the final war. Akainu could turn against the world government, not because he agrees with Luffy, not because he becomes a hero, but because his definition of justice becomes incompatible with the people controlling him. Akainu does not need a redemption arc. Redeeming him too easily would weaken everything his character represents, but he could have a rebellion arc. Imagine the truth becoming public, the erased history, the destruction of civilizations, the atrocities committed to protect a ruling class, and the existence of Imu. Sakazuki would face an impossible choice: continue obeying authority or continue obeying justice. For most of his life, he treated those things as identical. The final saga may force him to realize they are not. And if Akainu decides the world government itself has become evil, remember how he deals with evil. He destroys it completely. That could place him in temporary alignment with people he hates. Not friendship, not forgiveness, just overlapping enemies. The final war may collapse the world order. Blackbeard representing ambition, Imu domination, the revolutionaries liberation, Luffy freedom, and Akainu violent order, all colliding at once. Magma is the perfect symbol for Sakazuki. It destroys what exists and leaves new land behind. That is his philosophy. Burn away criminals, weakness and uncertainty, then build order from what remains. He never asks how many innocent people will burn in the process. Akainu is not terrifying because he lacks morality. He is terrifying because he possesses morality without empathy. He has courage, discipline, loyalty, and conviction. Those are normally heroic qualities, but attached to an ideology that no longer recognizes individuals, courage becomes fanaticism, discipline becomes authoritarianism, loyalty becomes obedience, justice becomes cruelty. You cannot easily bribe Akainu. You cannot scare him or tempt him with treasure. Sakazuki already possesses something more powerful than greed, certainty. He believes he knows what the world needs. And people who believe they possess absolute moral certainty can be more dangerous than those who openly admit they want power. Which leads to the biggest question surrounding Akainu. What happens when certainty meets truth? What happens when the man who dedicated his life to justice discovers that justice and the world government were never the same thing? Does he remain obedient? Does he attack the system? Does he fight Luffy? Does Sabo confront him instead? Or does Aokiji return for one final ideological showdown? Whatever happens, Akainu's story feels unfinished. Ace's death and his rise to Fleet Admiral were not conclusions. They were preparation. Sakazuki stands on one belief: absolute justice. But One Piece constantly challenges absolutes. The government claims absolute authority. The celestial dragons claim absolute superiority. Akainu claims absolute justice. Luffy destroys those categories. He judges people by their actions, not their labels. A pirate can be his friend. A marine can be his enemy. The world is complicated, and Akainu desperately wants it to be simple. That may be why he loses. Not because his magma is weaker, but because his worldview cannot survive reality forever. His greatest battle may be against the belief system that created him. Sakazuki has spent his life destroying evil, but what if that evil has been standing above him the entire time? If he discovers the answer, the Red Dog may stop guarding the gates of the world government. He may turn around and burn them down. Akainu may never become good or regret what he did to Ace. But the final war could force him to choose between the government he serves and the justice he claims to believe in. That could make him one of the most dangerous wildcards in the story. So what do you think? Will Luffy finally defeat Akainu? Will Sabo avenge Ace? Or will Akainu turn his magma against the world government he spent his life protecting? Let me know your theory in the comments. And if you enjoy deep character analysis, psychology, hidden themes and theories from anime and manga, subscribe to the Insight Station. Because sometimes the most important part of a character is not what they do, it is understanding why they do it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next stop on the Insight Station.